Well,
hi.
So this has been a long 3 months since we've done any kind of...
3 whole months since the last update.
Where has the year gone?
I'll tell you where it's gone. Into all of the other crap that's surrounding me.
And a load of HSTs.
Yeah, so,
very busy.
Unfortunately, the warehouse is being filled up with actual stock. We've got one warehouse full of stock, and this one's now getting full.
Well, we're getting ready for Black Friday and Christmas,
yes.
Which is very exciting.
Yeah.
So in the last video, you were at Dyno Talk getting ready to take the car to Howell.
Yeah, challenges the memory a little bit, this, but yeah, so we took the car to Howell, to Gareth, Howell Race Engineering, and actually we took it to his friend's Dyno, just a local place that's quite a cool little place, hidden gem, and it's got a really nice, I think it's a Maha dyno on it, which is really good, nice cooling as well. And we did loads of base mapping, got the car running really nicely. And he progressively worked up to doing some power runs at the end of it.
Did it need mapping? Because you didn't do that much.
It had a base map on it, so Howell have done lots of E30 M3s. This one in particular, it's quite an interesting point actually, because this one was always going to be different because I'd made the airbox for it with these short stack trumpets for the throttle bodies, and that actually is what we found at the end of this dyno session, was that we were down on power, and I think it was about sort of 25 horsepower down, something like that, over what it should have been. And we weren't hunting for power figures. I always said that if it was going to be a bit slower, it wasn't going to be the end of the world, but it just felt like a little bit too much to me. So we measured the existing trumpets that I'd made, and Gareth did some calculations and basically found out that for the length of the ones that I'd made, you'd need to rev the car to, I think it was 11,800 RPM. Did
you not want to do that then?
So, you know, I was well game for that. But
here's one we prepared earlier.
So that's how short it is. And then I guess here we'll just show how long the new 3D printed, which like blew my mind. Yeah, that it's possible. Well, it was about 140 hours of 3D printing that Gareth had to do. That's after he'd had to design it in CAD and everything. And basically they're similar to the normal trumpets that you have inside the standard S65 airbox. But obviously ours, because we didn't have the bonnet clearance, and I wasn't willing to compromise the hood, the bonnet, as our plenum our airbox is a lot shorter, a lot lower, so we actually had to design it so it still had the same curve to it, and length, but was actually low enough for what we needed to do with the carbon cover that we've made. So after spending 140 hours 3D printing that, he put it back together, put that back on the car. He went back to the dyno without me, and we got some fantastic results. I think we were about, I can't remember what the exact numbers were now. It was about 430, something like that.
Okay. And what's the standard E90 for?
Challenging my memory. 410, 420.
Oh, so you've made power then.
So a little bit more than stock, which is exactly what we're after.
So this is the video we're about to see now with him in the car doing some pulls.
Yeah. Yeah, so doing some pulls in it here. This is just the video that he sent me to show me how cool it was, the DCT and the throttle blipping and everything like that. And what you'll notice in this is actually there's quite a few occasions where he's clicking a paddle and it's not doing anything, it's not reacting quick enough, and that's because of the sensor that goes between the steering wheel controls to the actual control box. It was not quite in line enough.
Okay.
And also I've learned since then that he's not holding the paddle for quite long enough, so it's not actually recognising it as a shift. And there's some other little bits and bobs in the calibration of the DCT that we've still not completed that now. We've done absolutely loads of configuration updates, and I think we're on something like version 230 of the various ECU flashes that we do, with a little adjustment here, a little adjustment there.
Because you saw that video and you were slightly concerned, weren't you, with the lag? And you did look at options to make it wired.
Yeah, well, I'd still contemplate it, but I've done a fair bit of driving in the car now, and I don't have issues with it misshifting ever. It seems to do exactly what I want it to do every time, so I'm not saying that it won't, and I know that a wire would be it'd be a more positive thing. It'd be no question whether it's going to do what it needs to do, but yeah, it seems to work really well for what I need so far. So yeah, it's back here, and I wanted to give it a quick blast, so I thought I'd corner weight it and align it, give it its first alignment, just to get everything pointing in the right direction and make sure if I drive down the road it's not going to sort of spit me out too badly.
You're running 10 degrees of camber on the front?
Yeah, that's obviously what we do. That's what yellow cars do, isn't it?
Not blue race cars. So, I mean, do you know what settings you've gone for?
As a starting point, I think it was about 2.5 degrees rear camber and a bit of toe in, and about 4 degrees front camber. And I think we ended up with about 8 degrees caster and 2 mil of toe out, which is kind of a starting point. There'll be lots of adjustments, I'm sure, as I get to do some more driving in the car. But that was a good starting point. Yeah. And then we went for a rip.
Round the estate, which you loved doing.
It wasn't me though.
Wasn't you, it was John.
No, it was not John. He would never. I've never let John in this car. Jesus.
ABS up here?
It was doing something, but not a very good job of it.
Right.
So it was, I think it was hammering that front wheel over the bump.
Yeah, probably didn't.
Same as the 911 did the other day.
Jesus. Yeah, so you've gone around the estate.
Yeah.
Good funds, but issues with the ABS.
Not issues.
Well,
the ABS hasn't been done yet.
Yep.
So it's got the MK60 ABS unit in it.
Yep.
None of the motorsport calibration has been done. So the MK60 is from the E30 M3 CSL, so a completely different car to this. So we started on the journey with Andrew Liddell, who handled all the ABS config for me on this car, and basically it's now a full motorsports ABS unit, similar to Bosch Motorsports. Everything from sort of wheelbase, wheel weight, brake size, piston size, pad area, everything about this car gets thrown into a spreadsheet, and then he creates the configuration for the MK60 and gets it programmed, comes back. Then I have to do some quick stuff with configuration, with 2 laptops and running around and testing all sorts of bits and bobs. And then, in theory, then we have a full motorsports ABS unit in the car, so it's time for some testing.
On the estate again.
Not me though.
Not you though, but it seemed to lock up very well.
Well, that's not what ABS is there for, Rich.
What's ABS there for? I've taken it off my Nissan.
So ABS is there to stop you from locking up and to give you control over each wheel as you drive, as you're on the brakes. So basically you stay under control, but it stops working at about 10 mile an hour and just allows the brakes for you to have full control. And that's why in this video you can see that at the very end of it, it's stopping extremely quickly at the very end of it. It just allows all 4 wheels to completely lock up just at the last moment. But that was an interesting video because a lot of people think that it's kind of wild and out of control, but the reason I've done that 5 times in a row, and I was aiming for the bump the dip in the road, which is a bit of a ramp and a horrible whip that causes a massive problem with ABS on the Porsche and anything else that we've gone over there. And I just wanted to see what issue it would have. Jay!
Sensitive.
Noisy bugger. So yeah.
So, I mean, the brakes from our friends at Alcon invited you over for a Speed Hunters were doing a behind the scenes
Yeah, they're
article.
kind of doing a factory tour, which is really interesting. A lot of people don't really understand what goes into sort of a company like that, and the R&D side of things and everything like that. It's an amazing place. So yeah, it was pretty cool for them to have asked me just to take the car down and park it there.
And that was one of the first long journeys you've done.
So that was, yeah, it was an interesting journey, and it basically brought to light an early rev limiter that was brought in, like a safety cut, that was brought into 4,000 RPM because the car thought it was overheating at about 110 degrees, something like that. It was basically settings that we'd chosen wrong in the calibration for the Cyvex. So basically we just made it a bit too sensitive and it was pulling stuff back a little bit too hard. But that kind of meant that I was there doing a motorway journey in this at 60 mile an hour.
Lovely.
And yeah, it's quite loud as well. So
you do wear ear defenders, like
most of the time I do. To be honest with you, kids, I do on most of my cars now. I've been driving very noisy cars for a very long time. Quite an old guy, and I think my hearing's starting to be affected. Oh, and the drum and bass stuff as well.
Drums and brass.
When I was a yacht. But yeah, so yeah, that was an interesting journey. Again, just a simple case of feedback from my journey. Quickly got on the phone to Gareth at Howell. We did a bit of team viewing, which is basically him coming and using my laptop remotely. Changed stuff and stopped that from happening, so then I was able to do longer journeys without that being an issue.
It's the joys of it being road legal.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the best thing about it being road legal and being able to go back and forth, even if it's just to home, just commuting in it. It shows any little minor little faults and any little imperfections, and I can actually do little bits at a time and hopefully make it perfect eventually.
So after the Alcon, you took your fleet to track show at Silverstone.
Yep.
So you drove this. And Jay.
Mel and I drove this on the road.
Lovely, she loved it.
You drove some yellow thing.
Wonderful yellow thing.
Yeah.
And Jay trailered this.
Jay trailered that.
And Martin took the S15.
Yeah.
So you had all of your fleet.
Yeah.
And you managed to get some.
All of them. There was a lot of missing cars, but you know, next year we might take them all.
We'll get on to your entire fleet at one place soon.
Yeah.
But so you managed to take this to Trax, and Max Marshall managed to get you some track time, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So we were there to do the drifting stuff, the drifting demonstrations in the Noisy Monster. But it actually got me I think it was 12 o'clock session, so we finished in that car one session. I had to jump straight out of it and into this for its first ever attempt on track. It was a bit of a pain in the arse because I forgot to pull the GoPro out of that and put it in this, so we don't really have any footage.
No.
But yeah, kind of, I was really happy with it as its first test session on track. It's pretty quick. It doesn't seem to have much of a problem on a track like that, but we did about halfway through the session, which was I guess about 3 laps, we had this thing again where it brings in a safety cut because it thinks the oil temperature's too hot. Now we changed the settings so that it doesn't do anything until the oil's 130 at that point, and I thought, you know, there's no way it could be 130, it's got to be a scaling issue with the sensor or something like that. But turns out it was actually overheating the oil. It got to 130 degrees, and the Cyvex had just basically reduced the limiter, brought it down to like 4,500 RPM.
Why?
And it just.
Any idea why though? Why it hit that temperature?
Because they run really hot. These S65s do, apparently. So yeah, what we ended up doing is going big. So the DCT has its own cooler as well, and again that was running like a smaller cooler. The advice from Gareth was to run something big for track use because the DCT also gets very hot. And I've had experience of that on my E30 M3 using that on track before. I've had it go into kind of a semi-limp mode where the clutch packs start to slip and it basically ends your track session. So I didn't want that. So what we've gone for is 2 gigantic 44-row oil coolers, and this should hopefully help reduce oil temperatures dramatically, and also allow the radiator, which has absolutely fantastic cooling, the standard radiator does, and I'm a huge fan on it, and it will allow it to pull through the oil coolers properly as well, because one of the biggest problems is actually the aperture on the front of the car like this. Like, if you know what an E30 M3 it looks like, it has a slightly bigger aperture in the front there, so we've got a little bit of airflow going through there, and we've got a little bit through here, and if my change to the 44-row coolers isn't enough, we'll be doing some ducting, and possibly, I don't want to do it, but possibly cutting that out as well.
Why do you just draw some massive holes in your bumper all over the place?
Because that's disgusting, and that's not what you do.
Is there a risk that you've gone too far the other way?
The other way?
Could you make the oil too cool?
No, it does make it more difficult to get up to temperature, but at the top end it won't be too cool. I've already done some road journeys in it, and it's getting to just normal road use, getting to about 90 degrees. So
perfect.
I'm hoping it'll be okay. I am still a little bit concerned it's not going to be enough, and like I say, I do need to duct it properly and maybe create more of a hole, more of an inlet there, but I really hope I don't have to.
Yeah.
Because I like the way it looks.
So the next event, Caffeine and Machine.
Yeah, so another great road test for us. I took a lot of my cars to the opening event of Caffeine and Machine, which is just an incredible venue that a friend of mine's opened in Stratford, and yeah, basically took a lot of stuff on the trailers but drove this there.
James took the high five, and Fraser drove my S15, and Mel drove the Porsche.
Yep.
Macan, not the turbo. And so yeah, you led the way, and it was fine then?
Yeah. It was. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Like, as I say, it's a bit miserable with the lack of light. You know, I might. You know, should I put a big LED light bar up here?
Oh.
That would look great, wouldn't it?
You could put rally like Hellas on the front or something. Big quads.
Yeah. But I think that kind of brings us up to speed, really. As I say, we've been a bit shit with the updates with this car, so I must apologise. But there's been lots going on.
Lots of little things out of this building, and when it has been in this building, it hasn't really. I've been away. Yeah,
and also there's been like the other distractions, like my Porsche. That wasn't something I intended on buying, and it's kind of interfered a little bit with the time that I spend on this, because I love that too.
And then Operation Make Phil Drift Again actually happened, and you've done some drifting.
Yeah, but not in the S15. Not in my car. So
you took this.
Everybody else has driven my S15 apart from me.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll change that this weekend, I think. Actually. Yeah. But yeah, there's lots going on. I've still got many jobs to do, and a lot of that will come from like testing again and making changes to the ECU and alignment and things like that. But I've done some little bits and pieces like safety stuff, especially if I'm going to drive it on the road.
What is that? So, I haven't seen that.
So this is just Lifeline cage padding, basically. Head protection, stuff to look after you in a crash. I've got more coming here because it's a weird size because it's 22mm. But basically, that came out the, I don't know whether you can see that. That came out of the ASCAR, the car that we built the 86 with. So that's really useful because the side mirrors are so shit on this.
It's like a massive Broadway. We'll put up a video now as you're driving.
It's a multi Broadway, isn't it? But that's really cool. And cooling, I've done as well. That's really essential because this car does get quite hot. Again, I've got a bit more safety stuff to do, so I've got having a fire extinguisher in here is very important.
Yep.
Having it bolted down properly is also very important, so that's on the list of jobs to do. And also we've got some stuff like it's letting water into the footwell, which we imagine is coming down the front panel, so we've got a bit of research to do with bits and pieces like that and a few fixes here and there, but it's kind of working. I need to do a track day.
Have you missed the season now though?
Nah, cheaper now, isn't it? I'm not afraid of taking it on track in the wet if it's as long as it's watertight or watertight-ish.
Would you need to change the tyres?
They'll be alright. It's, you know, they won't be perfect, but I could put wets on it and it'd be awesome. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'd prefer not to do a wet track day, but yeah, we'll see how it goes, see what we can get on, and maybe do like a Donington day, because I do know that there's still going to be teething issues and things that we have to fix. I just hope that, you know, it's not stuff that we've already visited, like that, or call a problem. But yeah, so it's still a very cool thing that I enjoy driving quite a lot, and I am still driving it to work and back from time to time.
So the one issue with driving this and trying to use it as a daily is lack of a certain something. Yeah. How do you lock it? Or do anything with it?
Yeah, so obviously I've got one of our Driftworks quick release spacers. Yeah. But yeah, it does mean that it's slightly embarrassing if I forget I need to go shopping on the way home.
Walking into Waitrose with his steering wheel.
Waitrose? Aldi, mate.
You do not shop in Aldi.
So yeah, carrying that around and putting it in your basket, you look like a proper knob. But, yeah.
One step down from wearing a race suit every day.
Either that or have my rather nice E30 M3 stolen, so I'm happy with that.
But stay tuned. Any questions on this?
Yeah, I'm sure there's loads of stuff that I've missed and has just appeared, so if you want to know anything about the car, just tap some keys, ask the questions, and I'll answer them.
And if you have taken any photos of this at tracks or caffeine and machine or on the road parked in Waitrose, just tag us at Driftworks.
Yep.
And we'll share all the ones we like.
Excellent.
So yeah, stay tuned for more updates.
See you later.
At Driftworks, we've helped over 50,000 happy customers since 2004. You'll find our online shop is simple to use with superb shipping rates to anywhere in the world and finance options available for UK customers. As you can see from this small selection of some of our own cars, we absolutely love wheel fitment. So if you need any help with wheel fitment for your own car or any of our other products before placing your order, please drop us an email to shop@driftworks.com or give us a call.